Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. So the Conservative government have been running down the NHS since taking office back in 2010. Many voters, however, for some reason, believed Boris Johnson when he said he would invest in the NHS. Now there are serious talks about abolishing a key target that would shine a spotlight on his lies. But first, if you'd like to receive notifications of daily news and political commentary, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So to begin with, I should explain the target that the Conservatives are thinking of abolishing. It's based on the target created by the last Labour government that 98% of all patients must be seen in accident and emergency within 4 hours. Any trusts that would fail to meet that target were seen as failing. Now, targets are, of course, a way of forcing a management structure to prioritise in a particular way. We've all experienced targets at work and they're all for that purpose. If the target set is actually important, then of course it can lead to improvement. There are such things as bad targets. We've all seen them. These are ones that either don't get to the root cause of an issue or ones that can be easily fiddled without any actual improvements resulting. And even when you've got a good target, there is an element of gaming of it, of course. So for example, with this target for being seen within 4 hours, while a patient has been waiting for less than 4 hours, they are prioritised. And the closer they get to that 4 hours, the higher they'll be prioritised. But the second they've been waiting for more than 4 hours, their priority drops massively. And the reason for that, of course, is once you see them at that point, they are no longer going to help your target because you've already missed it with them. They suddenly drop in priority. But the same sort of gaming will happen regardless of targets. If you set a target, and unless you want people working aimlessly with made up targets all on their own, which would be utter chaos, then you are going to game targets unless the managers in charge of them are complete mugs. But the A&E target was considered a good one. Although A&E is just one department in a hospital, it's seen as a key barometer on the state of the healthcare in that general area. For example, when other agencies are struggling to cope, they're more likely to direct people to A&E who don't really need to go to A&E. It's an easy offload. When there aren't enough beds on the wards, then that means patients in A&E who should be going to those wards are left in A&E because there isn't a bed available for them. So the length of wait times in A&E is accepted as being a really good indicator of how well the systems are coping. In other words, medical professionals, doctors, nurses, tend to agree that despite the inherent faults in any target-based system, this one works. This one has resulted in improvements. And this is why David Cameron's government immediately lowered the bar when they came into power 6 years after this target was introduced. They knew that their actions were going to lead to poorer results. So they changed the target from needing 98% of patients seen within 4 hours to 95%. And then repeatedly failed to meet even their own target. It did drop even further later on. The latest figures show that there are NHS trusts with less than 50% of patients seen within 4 hours. The average seems to be a little under 70%, which is an utterly indefensible indictment of the Conservatives' ruination of public healthcare in the UK. And it will get worse. Despite Boris Johnson's bold promises for NHS investment, anyone who pays any attention at all to politics knows that this is a lie. He intends to ravage it even worse. And this would be reflected in even worse figures. So let's say you're a government and you know your actions are going to make the figures look very bad for you. You're going to get a lot of very bad press from this, especially if Labour elects themselves a good leader who will drive those figures through your heart like a wooden stake. What do you do? I mean, you could carry on just lying about the figures. Theresa May and Boris Johnson have both done that, simply denying the figures used against them. Opposition use a figure against them. Oh, no, that's not true at all. Yes, it is. It's on the Office for National Statistics. That's your government data. No. Because most people won't check. But that only worked against poor opposition leaders who lacked credibility amongst the public. Remember, the public will believe who they want to believe. Most of them are not going to go and check for themselves. If you suddenly had an opposition leader that was sounding more credible, all of a sudden those figures could start to bite, and it's not so easy to lie against them. So your next ploy is to make sure there are no figures. I mean, if you abolish the target, then there are no figures with which to beat the government over the head with. It's the government who decide what data should be provided. They are the ones who tell these various bodies to provide them with this data on this form, which will then be available for public scrutiny. You know, this is how they've managed to distort unemployment figures. They changed the definition of unemployment, therefore making a lot of the data simply disappear because they weren't requiring people to record a whole swathe of data. It was never collected, and so it's not available in the public records. So will the government do it? I mean, if you're focused entirely on what's best for the government, how can you doubt it? These figures are not going to reflect well on Boris Johnson's government. Of course, he's going to abolish it if he has the power to, but there is a risk of a backlash. So medical professionals like the target because it did its job of improving waiting times for patients, at least while Labour were in government. It passed the acid test of targets. It made things better. And in fact, arguably it still does now. The actual figure would be much, much lower were that target not to exist, because trusts are trying to meet the target as far as they can. If the target is removed, you might get a lot of people protesting, because after all, once you've already got 10 years worth of data showing it declining from, yes, trusts are actually making this 98% to actually the average is less than 70% now, and then you remove it altogether, it's quite easy to persuade people that the reason for that is because it's dropped even lower than the roughly 69% that it currently is at on average. And given that the whole point of abolishing the targets will be to avoid bad press, getting themselves even worse headlines from patients and doctors groups revolting may not actually help them. So in other words, if you want to inspire this one, write to your MP and explain just how opposed you are to this, much as you can for everything. In fact, you could probably inundate your MP over the next, I intend to, every week write to my MP about something now and see what response I get. So anyway, I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.